I survived the Talbert files and all I got is this t-shirt. Welcome everyone. Recently a huge controversy appeared on mostly FNAF Twitter. The Talbert files. You literally had to be there to understand how crazy this all was. A roller coaster of emotions. Literally this graph. This video I'm making it for archival purposes to explain the situation as best as I can. Disclaimer. I didn't expect this to become this big and crazy, so I didn't document everything from the beginning. One person who played a major part in this whole thing deactivated due to harassment. People on Twitter are awful. Don't be like them and don't harass anyone ever. Because of this, there might be some missed details or chronology issues. Let's begin with what is or what are the Talbert files. If you know or don't care what the Talbert files are, please skip to this timestamp. It's an alleged scrapped version of the Freddy files. People on Twitter decided to call it that because it's written from the perspective of Dr. Talbert, a character that only appears in Fazbear Frights. Allegedly, only Entom has the book and their friends saw the scans of it. We got these scraps of information. Introduction. The Freddy Files is a guidebook that was released in August 2017 that acted as a gameplay strategy guide and collection of speculative ideas for that franchise's mythos. It covered all of the released material at the time, excluding the spin-off FNAF World, specifically FNAF 1, 2, 3, 4, Sister Location, the Silver Eyes, and the Twisted Ones. However, the released version was only one of many drafts Scott Carlton wrote. The Freddy Files was originally a straightforward lore guide for FNAF 1 to Sister Location, with teasers for the 6th installment sprinkled throughout. The book is framed as an investigation by paranormal investigator Christopher Ryan Talbert, an online blogger with an alternate agenda who misdirects the reader in many instances in order to fulfill said agenda. Instead of proposing theories and ideas based on objective analysis of events that occur in the series, it was an attempt to create a comprehensive and detailed description of the series up until the last point. Dated May 19th, 2017, this proof of concept copy appears to line up with draft Scott Cotton mentions in passing many years ago, specifically what is marked as version 3 in image below. Version 1. In the beginning there was an idea that the book should be from the perspective of an in-universe investigator, trying to solve the murders from Five Nights at Freddy's 1. However, that scope seemed too limited and wouldn't have been able to discuss gameplay strategies since it was an in-game character. Version 2. Then it was changed so that the perspective would be from an out-of-universe member of the Five Nights at Freddy's community, also investigating, trying to piece together the puzzle. But this would have ultimately been disappointing since the book wasn't designed to solve everything. Version 3. So then it was changed to be an in-universe online blogger trying to solve the mystery, but who had an alternate agenda and was trying to mislead readers of that book. However, this was effectively creating an in-universe character and adding to the lore, which I didn't want to do. However, those who know of this book's existence simply refer to it as the Talbert Files. A word from Scott Cotton. When Entom first got his hands on this book, he emailed Scott Cotton about it, asking about how its contents should be treated and whether it should be publicly shown off. Scott replied, "I'm not sure how this managed to even get out, but I appreciate you letting me know first instead of going around throwing things about. Needless to say, I can't really control what you do with the book. You're absolutely right that this getting out would cause stressful. However, it's not my place to say you can't reveal anything. What's out there is out there. I do appreciate you being cautious though, smiley face. To answer your questions, I didn't scrap the book because I revealed too much lore. There have been many times over the years where I've planned on dumping everything into one condensed plot, but it's always ended in unsatisfactory. In the state that the lore is in, how exactly do I conclude something on that scale? Would it really count as a conclusion? And how exactly can I wrap a plot up without any questions or sacrifices? In that book in particular, you are seeing less of the story but more so ideas for the story I had. Making another game to clear up loose ends was my priority at that point, and I explored many scopes during that time period, ultimately leading to most of them being scrapped. However, that's the sacrifice needed to be made. I can't tell you exactly what changed, but a lot of the book was me jotting down ideas where I wanted to expand the story. Ultimately, it did in fact turn into a prequel story for the next game, one that was too much of a build-up for its own good. There comes a point in time when writing a story where you need to explore many possibilities within a canon. While I'll just reuse things, there can be plot details that no longer make it to the final draft. Things can also be different, but inspired off of ideas I had prior. A lot of the characters in that book went through that exact process, eventually being used years later in different stories. I had two options to make writing that book: cancel a game I didn't want to make, or release one with unsatisfactory story. I decided the former. That resulted in many ideas for the story, which you can see remnants of in that book, being thrown out, while some were refined. I couldn't plan on making a game to tie up loose ends if I had already made a book doing such. There would be no finale, and ultimately there would be characters I conceptualize and then throw out with no question. It requires years of thought process ahead, so I had to sacrifice that exploration of the story to be thrown out to non-canonicity, despite some characters being refined for different plots years later. I do appreciate the concern, and I hope this eases things. When Five Nights at Freddy's 6 released, things went smoothly to where it wasn't that confusing, as everyone seemed to grasp the conclusion of the lore and what it told. One a lot smaller than what I had prior, but for the best. Smiley face. Please don't stress over this, as it's not your story. As much strife as things can cause, I will leave it to you to decide. But just remember how the community is. It's hard to understand what's canon and what were ideas jotted down at the point. Whatever is released is what's canon. Take a break if you need to. It's the start of a new year. Thanks once again. Good night, smiley face. Hey, do whatever you want with it. It's in the past. Heck, maybe you could turn it into fan fiction. Hey, it's not like anyone would know. Winking face. But in all seriousness, don't stress over it, really. I appreciate the kind email. Additional email. What should be made absolutely clear here is his final statement. Whatever is released is what's canon. Many of the things in this book were later repurposed for future Five Nights at Freddy's stories and projects. And while there is material that currently still lines up with released material, at the very most, confirmation within this book should be taken as dubiously canon. Remember this because it's gonna be important later. Now, let's begin. Entry types: blog post, child drawing, documents, journal entry, miscellaneous, miscellaneous meta, newspaper clipping, note, profile, report. Side note, provided by FAE, journal entry, Daddy's project, Cassidy Tucker. Daddy took me into work today. He showed me so many big things, so many colorful characters, so many great friends to meet. My favorite color is green. He made one just for me. Her name is Happy Frog. Image of Cassidy holding hands with Happy Frog. Side note, it appears as if Emmett Tucker's original role in the story was as a Fazbear Entertainment engineer who created the medical melodies, possibly in an attempt to link back to the strange masks in Happiest Day. Happiest Day. Emmett's utilization in canon material is cosmically insignificant compared to what he initially was going to be used for. Instead of being the father of the puppet, Emmett was made to be the side character in the Fazbear Fate story Find Player 2. Journal entry: Uncle Steve, Cassidy Tucker. Daddy spoke to two men today. I recognized one of them as Uncle Steven. He says they're not related. It is just like Uncle Hippo. However, Steven isn't as old and raggedy as Uncle Hippo is. Drawing of old man Mr. Hippo in rocking chair. Side note: Fungi, or Steve Callahan, appears to have originally been planned to have a fair degree of importance in the story. Note: from Emmett to management of AR, Emmett Tucker. Dear Will, please just give me a chance. I know my project isn't as high-tech of what you dream. You are sick in the head and I am tired of you bossing me around. Just pay me and I'll take my money and go far away from this place, never to be seen again. My family is already in a low-income state and I've taken out enough funds from my savings to dedicate my life for this project just to satisfy you. So I quit. Take what else you want from me left. Side note: William took that last part literally. Child drawing: My Happiest Day, Cassidy Tucker. A letter that has been written in child writing. My Happiest Day, with a bunch of scattered children's drawings behind it. Letter is TBA. Freddie and Bonnie are drawn in pitch black, with a little girl holding their hands in the middle, writing above it, "You are not one of them." Miscellaneous. The connection between Steve Callahan and Michael Afton. Meta. Smear. Talbert says the unknown incident in 83 was Steve having an altercation with Michael. Side note. Either Talbert is purposefully ignoring the existence of William's second son, can't find any information on him, or a little bit of both. Documents. List of properties under Afton's name. Temporary placeholders. First, 200 N, New Harmony, Utah, 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, 1 story. Second, 225 Center St. Pine Valley, Utah, under lease by Afton Robotics LLC, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 3 story. Side note. This indicates that the observatories shown on the breaker room map in sister location are or at least were initially meant to be one building owned by Afton Robotics. Blog post. Stop asking questions. Dr. Christopher Ryan Talbert, please stop asking about the rumors of Afton's second son. There are no records. I have no interest in looking into this. I can discuss his divorce in 1983, however. Documents. Divorce documents. Utah-Washington Juridical Court. Redacted v. William Afton. Redacted v. Redacted. Marianne v. Emmett Tucker. Side note. The first and only reference to Mrs. Afton, showing that they divorced in 1983. Miscellaneous. Meta. Entom. Talbert also scribbled out Fredbear's and put the location of Cassidy's death as Freddy's for some reason. Side note. Here, Talbert is trying to erase the events of Take Cake to the Children minigame from history. One may assume at first glance this is Talbert correcting the locations of the incident, but later in the book you can see he's trying to propagate the idea that the victim seen in the minigame died June 26, 1985. The debate scene here isn't, is Take Cake Freddy's or Fredbear's? It's, did the victim die at this point or at this point? This implies and even confirms that the Take Cake to the Children minigame was always meant to depict Fredbear's family diner. Okay, this part actually goes really hard, so prepare yourself. Journal entry. December 1983. William Afton. December 1983. For all my mortal life, I have not been able to fully grasp exactly why I do not feel the things that are deemed normal. In fact, all I feel is rage toward others who do not deserve the life they have been given, not taking advantage of what lies beyond tangibility. Despite the death of my very own son, I feel no sorrow, no regret, no pain. I feel ridicule, and the burning fury with me continues like a rolling thunder. But rage will not get me anywhere, not unless I mend it into something else. If there is meaning to life, if there is a purpose to all the hardships and sorrow, it will remain an elusive dream. For some the mystery of death and the afterlife is frightening and overwhelming, but I have learned to embrace those unknowns. If anything deserves the name God, it is the very laws of nature themselves, the only universal truth, the only higher powers we must all bow down to before our time runs out. Every place he walked, and every tear he shed, left its effect in reality. Truly one cannot die if there remains a peace. It is only a part of them that dies. I will replicate this, and I will create something with the power to give the gift of life. I simply just need a volunteer, perhaps the Tucker girl. She shines too much of a bright smile. She's a container for love that will soon burst. I will repurpose her. So if this was real, and then it wasn't scrapped, that would confirm the Shatter victim theory, which is a lot of information. Side note. This is the first ever example of William Afton being given proper characterization within the games, with it lining up fairly well with his character in the novel trilogy, a man incapable of feeling love whose ego is wounded by said fact. Despite the death of his son, he feels nothing. Not agony, not sadness, not even anger, but rather ridicule. If you were to take this journal, replace that Tucker girl with Henry's girl, and leave the rest unchanged, it would still fit perfectly with the story of the games. This also implicates the Bite of 83 as the earliest event in the timeline. I need to comment on that side note a little bit. I disagree here. Game William Afton and book William Afton and even the movie William Afton are all the same character, and this isn't giving him proper characterization in the games because this is also a book, so I don't really know what they meant with that side note. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Except from Autobiography of a Yogi, below is text saying give gifts, give life. Child drawing. The puppet is in a bubble with me written beneath. Miscellaneous, meta, Entom. Oh yeah, that's another thing that changed in the final lore, lol. Afton was gonna make the puppet. Now it's Henry. Newspaper clipping. December 21st, 1983. New Harmony woman found disembodied in backyard. Emmett Tucker's divorce notes attached. Missing child poster also attached. Have you seen her? Missing child. Contact this number 1-800-999-999. Emmett Tucker. Side note. William tried to implicate Emmett for the murder of his ex-wife and his daughter. Miscellaneous, continuity error, meta, Entom. Here's a funny thing. There's a continuity error in this book. Cassidy was said to have died on Halloween. Basically, they did a trilogy newspaper. But in December 1983, it says he's gonna kill her. Side note. This newspaper appears to have copied text from the Silver Eyes, explaining the inconsistency. If it had been finalized, it would have most likely been fixed. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. By the way, it wasn't archived, but from what I remember, the reason Cassidy was in Golden Freddy was because Steve Callahan and Cassidy Tucker were so close. William put a piece of Cassidy's soul in Callahan's Fred bracelet so they'd always be together. Note, to steal Callahan from William Afton. William Afton. Stephen, I know how it feels to lose someone. I'm sorry for the loss of your daughter. I know I can't replace her, but maybe I can show you something that would be a gift. Do you remember that Tucker boy? Side note, this is the only mention of Callahan having a daughter within the book. Seemingly her presence is only to motivate Afton to experiment with Cassidy's soul, resulting in the creation of Golden Freddy. Blog post. Dr. Christopher Ryan Talbert. I've said this already, but there is no second son of Afton. I have no interest in researching ghosts being in the building before June 26, 1985. Talbert. Miscellaneous. Circus Baby's Pizza World. Circus Baby's Pizza World was born, featuring 3 state-of-the-art robotic entertainers. Circus Babies is said to have been open for a year before facing difficulties. Primary contour model. Circus Baby's Pizza World is open Monday through Friday. Meet the cast. Circus Baby, Funtime Foxy, Ballerina. Side note. It appears as if Scott accidentally had sent the Ghostwriters team an older script for sister location, resulting in some inconsistencies with the release of the game. Circus Babies was open for a full year originally, and you worked there while it was still open. Funtime Freddy also doesn't appear to have originally been planned to be present at the establishment. Newspaper clipping. Local pizzeria under investigation for unidentified child. Employees have seen a little girl running around in the pizzeria in March 1985. People wonder if she is a missing child from years ago. Side note. This newspaper was created to justify how the cameras could have picked up 5 children being lured to the backrooms of Freddy's. Profile. Missing children. MCI June 26, 1985. Susie Mosteller. Gabriel Gardner, Fritz Smith Jr., Jeremy Fitzgerald Jr., my beloved daughter, Cassidy Tucker. Changed it to Tucker because that's actually who she was. Accompanied by drawings of flowers. Side note, the full names of Jeremy and Fritz reveal a family connection to their FNAF 2 counterparts. This is one of the few things that is most likely still the case in canon. Miscellaneous, comment logs? Fassbender 42. I'm not sure what exactly you mean by your beloved daughter. I've looked into your personal database records and don't see anything about your adoption or ancestry. Comment deleted by Talbert. Side note. For some odd reason it appears as if Talbert is attempting to spread the idea that Cassidy was his daughter, and that she died June 26, 1985 and not December 21st, 1983. He doesn't appear to be doing this in conjunction with Fazbear Entertainment either. As a matter of fact, almost his entire character has been completely changed since then. Dr. Talbert is a prominent character in the Fazbear Frights Teacher Stingers, with his role being that of a scientist who studies and utilizes remnant. Oddly enough, while his original role was that of a villain and stooge for Fazbear Entertainment, the Stingray Stingers present him as a technically similar to Henry. It seems as if the Stingray Stingers' older remnant-studying scientist, Phineas Taggart, inherited some of the original Talbert's quirks, notably that of collecting haunted objects and presumably an aversion to other people. Dr. Taggart and Dr. Talbert are both scientists studying remnant and metal as a conductor of powerful emotion. Profile: MCI suspects as of 1985, June 26th. William Afton, age 40, most obvious and known suspect. He had an obsession with the Bonnie robot. Reportedly is a diagnosed schizophrenic because he has seen the shadow animatronics, possibly a misdiagnosis. Lost a child to a gas leak, named Abigail. Steve Callahan, phone guy, age 34, deceased. Has a history with the company dated from 1983. Has an interest in robotics. One of the first testers of the spring-lock mechanisms. Worked closely with Afton, who is a potential suspect. Inspiring entrepreneur, lost a lot of money in a gambling session. Was potentially seeking out insurance by killing children. Michael Afton, age 17, convicted of manslaughter. Incident unknown. Multiple sentences scribbled out in red. Attached sticky note. Dismisses. Mike Schmidt is innocent. Emmett Tucker, ex-Fazbear employee, designed the costume for the medical melodies, anger issues, lashed out at Afton when they broke the news they would not use his line of animatronics. Side note, William's misdiagnosis of schizophrenia is seemingly confirmed by Cassidy creating artwork of the shadow animatronics. Elizabeth's original name was Abigail. It appears as if it's being reused for the movie where Mike's little sister is named Abby as opposed to Elizabeth. Callahan's gambling session may be a nod to show that Scott Cawthon developed a variety of mobile slot machine games in order to pull in small amounts of money for his family prior to the release of first FNAF. Michael was convicted of manslaughter for the Bite of 83 at the age of 15, and Talbert's note casually confirms his identity as FNAF 1 guard, Mike Schmidt. Miscellaneous, Meta, Smear. The MCI safe room was planned to be sealed before the murders, and was only sealed as soon as they happened. The bodies were never found because they were sealed inside. Miscellaneous, leaked court documents from the MCI trial, Meta, Smear. Williams' attorney mentioned how he was involved in funding several sources alongside Fazbear Entertainment programs. It is claimed he was not present at the pizzeria during the murders, but Fungi was. William was visiting a warehouse because one of the projects he was funding was a construction for an experiment. Side note, Emmett Tucker ultimately was charged for the murders, although he was released as stated in the FNAF 1 newspaper. The suspect has been charged. Miscellaneous, Meta, Smear. Fazbear Entertainment was receiving financial aid from an unknown source during this time. FNAF 2. Note attached. Why are they keeping the spare robots in the back room? Newspaper clipping. New and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza put on lockdown under suspicion of murder. On the night of October 31st, 5 teens in St. George, Utah have gone missing. Police are currently investigating if this has anything to do with the FFP murders. No bodies or evidence were found near or around the pizzeria. Side note, this implies the intended reading of the phone calls and minigames as FNAF 2 being that the murders happened the week before, as Jeremy's work week ends November 13th, 1987. It implies that the mention of working a summer job is irrelevant and is merely just exchange wording. The calls are not pre-recorded. Night 1, hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy's Pizza. I'm here to... It was also a popular headcanon that the FNAF 2 murders was an instance of teenagers breaking into Freddy's and getting murdered by William acting as a security guard. This is derived from the idea that the Silver Eyes novel borrowed this general structure. Miscellaneous, Meta, Smear. Emmett Tucker was in the Toy Animatronics criminal database, under house arrest for trying to kidnap his daughter, who he did not have custody over due to divorce. Side note, they've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility, they even let them walk around during the day. Isn't that neat? Clears throat, but most. They've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition. Note: a sticky note goes over the night 6 phone call. Dr. Christopher Ryan Talbert. I'm convinced Stephen has a fascination with life beyond death. On the 6th phone call, on the night of the guard's shift, it is mentioned Stephen would have taken the job afterwards. Little blurb of red text. How would Stephen have known about the usage of the golden suit? Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Talbert tries to convince the reader that William Afton is not actually the murderer, pinning it on Stephen Callahan instead. Side note: this is an instance of Talbot spreading misinformation based on popular theories within the fandom that have since been debunked, specifically the theory that the phone guy was the killer. Miscellaneous, the bite of 87, meta, Entom. One of Talbert's big posts mentions in passing that Foxy committed the bite of 87. Miscellaneous, meta, Entom. Mike Schmidt is having the FNAF 2 dreams. Side note: whether or not this is misdirect or a fact is unknown. Newspaper clipping: another guard missing at the infamous establishment. Circled and in red ink. Phone guy. In what is the latest in a string of disappearances at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, another guard has vanished during his final shift. The guard, identified as Steve Callahan, was last seen leaving the establishment around 10 p.m. on Saturday night. The establishment was reportedly closed at the time of Callahan's disappearances, making him the second night guard to disappear in the city of Hurricane this year. Police are currently searching for any information on Callahan's whereabouts, but so far have come up empty-handed. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. The FNAF 1 Golden Freddy poster actually happens canonically, dubbed the Golden Freddy effect. Side note, the FNAF 1 Night 4 phone call ends with Golden Freddy's roar. It looks like, strangely due to Steven and Cassidy's connection, Golden Freddy ended up being the one to kill him. Hey, do me a favor? Banging. Maybe sometime, you could check inside the suits in the back room? Banging. I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Bang, bang. I always wondered what was in those empty heads back there. Chime plays. You know? Deep moan. Oh no. Noises followed by a loud screech and static. The loud screech is Golden Freddy's roar. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Oh yeah, Talbot goes on an extended vacation to Aruba at one point in the book. Just find that funny. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Dr. Christopher Ryan Talbot was being paid from FE. There is another paycheck from Fazbear Entertainment for $100,000. With an attached letter, Fazbear Entertainment regarding your last in novice. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Talbot directly quotes putting the pieces back together in reference to figuring out what happened at Freddy's. Talbot just says they have a place for him, with no context or reason. Miscellaneous, meta, Penrose. Talbot is apparently said to be part of the team that finds Springtrap. Side note. Saying boo, haha. But you know, like I said, we're trying to track down a good lead right now. Some guy who helped design one of the buildings said there was like an extra room that got boarded up or something like that. So, we're gonna take a peek and see what we can find. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Fazbear Frights Horror House created by Fazbear Entertainment to capitalize on the rumors. Miscellaneous, meta, smear. Talbot describes the Happiest Day minigames as actual physical arcades in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 location, influenced by what is essentially remnant, emotional residue. He ignores them entirely. Note: from Fazbear Frights Horror House Management. From management, please make it apparent that none of the arcades in the building are for entertainment, they are only for display. Miscellaneous, St. George Auction, Freddy Fazbear Plush. Vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Bonnie Bunny Plush, vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Chica Chicken Plush, vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Foxy Fox Plush, vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Yellow Bear Plushie, vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Marionette Mask, vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Child Bonnie Toy Figurine, vintage, auctioned off to Christopher T. Side note: the few items that were salvaged will be sold at a public auction. Miscellaneous, paycheck to Talbot. Second paycheck from an independent source for $100 with an attached letter. I know who you are. Contact this number, St. George, Utah, 934-01233. Side note: the phone number listed makes a strange appearance as Charlotte's bracelet code. Newspaper clipping. The St. George Stitch Ruff. Local residents have named it the Stitch Ruff, as it has been seen mending multiple toys into a collection of items while also carrying what appears to be a stitched plush in its right hand. People describe the ghastly figure as a dead man walking. The St. George Stitch Ruff received its name from rumors that the ghastly figure was stitching bodies together and putting them into trash bags overnight. There are also rumors that it is stuffing human remains into multiple stitched plushes. The whereabouts of the Stitch Ruff are unknown, but the police continue to investigate. Reports: St. George, Utah. Rumors of dead man walking. The man was walking through town, collecting things in alleyways wearing a black cloak. His face was discolored and purple. His eyes were missing, with pinprick white dots. Side note: it appears as if Michael Afton originally was planned to take the role of the Stitch Ruff as an urban legend while also possibly killing people. In the Fazbear phrase Stitch Ruff Stingers, the reader follows the perspective of an endoskeleton haunted by the spirit of two boys named Jake and Andrew. Reports: St. George Cryptic Phenomenon. The voice from the sewer drain. The citizens from St. George, Utah were startled by strange noises coming from the sewer drain. It was described as a groaning voice, also described as unsettling, eerie. Reports of phenomenon of children speaking to sewer drains. Parents note the eerie similarities to it. It is speculated to be the voice of a ghost or wild animal. Report: ghost children sighting. St. George has recently been under fire for many urban legend phenomena. What people claim to be children running across the streets at night, disappearing into seemingly thin air. Reported children disappearing into sewers. Security camera footage has not reported any sightings of these children. However, there have been many accounts for it. A drawing is attached. It's a drawing of a singular stick figure saying "My Fun Day" with a cake on the table. Side note: for the following two reports interestingly lean into the angle of the FNAF 6 salvages animatronics being urban legends within Utah before the events of the game. Many of the visuals surrounding the salvages animatronics evoke said vibe, a teaser for FNAF 6 in the released Freddy files. Renders of salvaged animatronics in the back alleyway from FNAF 6. Report: Clown Scrapyard Cryptid. A group of local teens were exploring an abandoned junkyard when they discovered a strange figure in a pile of trash. They described the figure as tall and thick. It was described as having a grotesque face and a lobster claw-like hand. It was rumored to be responsible for a series of mutilations taking place around the town. Side note: this is Scrap Baby. It seems as if she was responsible for some random instances of murder within the town. Report: the bear in the attic. A resident of St. George reported that their child mentioned a voice coming from their attic. Things got a bit more sinister when the boy's pet rabbit disappeared overnight. When the parents walked in on the gruesome sight, they noticed a bear-shaped silhouette ascending into the attic. Side note: this is Molten Freddy. Interesting how he seemed to have killed a boy's pet rabbit. It seems as if it reminded them of someone. Miscellaneous. Emmett Tucker Search History, August 2023. How to light lighter fluid efficiently. Missing child reports between 1980 and 1999 in Washington County, Utah. Where is Fredbear's Family Diner, New Harmony, Utah? Side note: further parallels between Emmett Tucker and Henry Emily. As Emmett originally played the same role Henry would later fill in the released FNAF 6. Fredbear's Family Diner is also implied to be the setting of original FNAF 6, reinforcing the idea that the setting of the released FNAF 6 is a repurposed Fredbear's Family Diner. Miscellaneous, Meta, Penrose. Did you guys figure out that the Talbert was the original FNAF 6 protagonist and that, in fact, this job listing was intended for him, and that it would certainly be an odd circumstance if Michael were to perhaps find the job listing not intended for him? I wonder if that is referenced in the final game. Side note: this is referenced in the released FNAF 6, and to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you, although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. With the canonical Dr. Talbert's knowledge of Remnant, it could be that Henry intended to work with him during the released FNAF 6 before Michael took the position instead. For the future, Dark Horse Comics. The last page of the released Freddy files was a peek into the future of the series, promising more games and books. Notably, a tease at Scrap Baby for FNAF 6 was present. The Talbert files last page also was similar in structure to this. However, it mentioned one thing that has never come to fruition: a Five Nights at Freddy's Dark Horse comic series. While this was ultimately ditched in favor of the not very good graphic novel adaptation of The Silver Eyes, we do possibly have a remnant of this. In 2020, Brian Churilla made a tweet showing of a tryout for a Five Nights at Freddy's GN series. Conclusion regarding FNAF 6. During FNAF 1-4, Scott was largely throwing ideas at the wall, but by sister location and especially FNAF 6, he began actually planning things out. Rarely does he completely get rid of ideas. Often they'll work their way back into the franchise, even if they are radically different. How the Fazbear Frights book seemed to largely only exist because he scrapped this book. This really recontextualizes almost every comment he said around this time period, especially in regards to FNAF 6. When FNAF 6 was cancelled and then released a few months later, many assumed his origin statement on the game's development was a joke. However, knowing what he was planning this entire time recontextualizes this to a pretty insane degree. FNAF World was something Scott described as a lesson in learning to respect his fanbase. The Fazbear Frights books ultimately served as a lesson in learning how to reel in concepts in order to make them feel like they can coexist within one universe. The Talbert Files serves as one of the most important lessons Scott ever learned. Plan your story out before you tell it. In an attempt to give fans what they wanted, a conclusion that answered every little lingering unanswered question in the first 4 games, Scott made something too bloated for its own good and hackneyed in all of the wrong places. He wanted to tell a story that he enjoyed putting together. Fans wanted a playable visual encyclopedia. Doesn't that sound familiar? The Cassidy screenplay. Basic setup. Diving deep, this screenplay packed in a lot of lore, following the story of Cassidy. Problems. Spanning multiple time periods, following multiple characters, and featuring Rome from multiple games. This was pretty saturated to a fault. It may have been satisfying to the most hardcore fans, but it would have left the majority of people confused and lost. Hey, wait, maybe this was the most accurate screenplay. Verdict. Ultimately more of a visual encyclopedia than a movie. This just wasn't satisfying, even to me. Out. At the end of the day, Scott decided to line the story up with the novels, particularly by introducing Henry and Charlie to the prime canon in place of Emmett and Cassidy. Cassidy was chosen to be the name of Golden Freddy's child victim. Emmett Tucker was reduced to a similar but significantly smaller role in a singular Fazbear Fright story, and Michael's identity as the St. George Sheriff was given to a new character. It's reassuring to know Scott doesn't throw things away. No matter how insignificant the idea can be, he always finds a way to work things back in. With the movie coming soon, maybe we'll see the return of Steve Callahan or Jeremy Fitzgerald Jr., and maybe sometime after that, this will become public. For now, all we can do is wait. FAE. Well, that was it. I guess it became public after all, if it's even real. So even if this is real, it's not canon at all, even though the slides themselves said treated as dubiously canon, which I wouldn't do at all since it was scrapped. But there's a lot of information here, like names of important characters, their ages, the locations of where everything was happening. It also confirms and debunks a lot of popular fan theories. So what happened? Allegedly, Entom owns a physical copy of this book. As I read in the slides, Entom emailed Scott about it. The response is at this timestamp. After asking Scott what to do with this book, Scott sent the email read at this timestamp. So don't forget these emails because these are important. Afterwards, Entom and their friends made a Google Doc with all the details. They kept this to themselves, believing releasing this to the public would bring chaos and drama to the community. One user, Monologue, wrote a fanfiction inspired by this called Notes from an Investigator. One of the people from the friend group didn't seem to like the fact that they kept this hidden, so they leaked it to 4chan. The friend group insisted it's fanfiction to cover it up. This led to a lot of people thinking this was just a fanfic that people thought was a real thing. User called Lake decided to post screenshots from the Discord server of Entom's friend group, which caused a lot of conflict and chaos in the community. Entom said that this wasn't real and talked to Lake in the DMs. They explained their miscommunication, but Lake didn't understand they didn't agree on sharing the DMs too, so then assuming Entom agreed to that, Lake posted screenshots of their DMs where Entom admits Talbert Files is a real thing. This opened fire and shortly after, Entom deactivated due to harassment. This is what they posted. This post is being made in my words but with the blessing of Entom on his behalf because he's mentally not really in a good place to be handling social media right now. I'll start by stating it plainly that the Talbert Files is real. It's a scrapped early version of the first Freddy Files book that contains a lot of lore centered around the FNAF 1.6 era. However, this book and the information within is non-canon. When Entom talked to Scott agreed that it getting out would cause strife, but said it was up to him as to what he does with the book. Saying to Entom, "You are seeing less of the story but more so ideas for the story I had, and a lot of the book was me jotting down ideas while I wanted to expand the story. Ultimately, it did in fact turn into a prequel story for the next game, one that was too much of a build-up for its own good." Ending the mail with "whatever is released is what's canon," media released later down the line contradicts information within. It's an interesting look into FFPS development history, but it's not part of the games or any timeline. I'm not going to go into every single tidbit of info or trivia about it because I don't really care that much about the lore. Instead, I'd like to ease thoughts and address various things that have been said about Entom and his decision to withhold the book for so long. Entom is very cautious about information leaking and knows the damage it can cause. He's not making decisions out of ego, but because he does genuinely care about the community and its developers. Regardless of how you feel about his decision, it wasn't baseless. The fandom already has extensive database on what media is canon, such as threads or tales, so robbing an entire scrapped book that acted like a lore guide for a version of the lore that no longer exists seemed like it would have been a bad idea. Beyond that, there's a small subsection of the fandom that's extremely weird about leaks and people who post them. There's already people in the past that legitimately got upset at Entom for leaking books with live readings. He went to a store, bought books that were there at the store to be sold, and then read the book and talked about it online. I've even seen people bring this specific thing up to date as a point against Entom, which is hilarious when Scholastic themselves have acknowledged that they know about the live readings and are completely fine with them because they drum up hype and encourage discussion. Again, you, the reader, can disagree with Entom's decision and wholeheartedly say that you would have just released it. I probably would have released it too. At the same time, neither of us are in Entom's shoes. We weren't doxxed, sent gore in DMs, and harassed and provoked to the point of mental exhaustion all over Scary Bear game. The Talbert Files at the end of the day is quite literally just a book, a scrapped non-canon book. Entom is a real human being, and I just ask you to keep this in mind. Now feel free to discuss the Talbert Files as you please. The real chaos began. People kept emailing Scott asking if this is true. Others were harassing Entom's friends or asking for proof. The friends kept their stance and kept refusing to give the proof, saying the people don't deserve it. Some took the information as canon or dubious canon, which only reinforced the friends group's beliefs that releasing this book wasn't a great idea. Then Scott made a Reddit post saying he doesn't remember writing anything like that, and that it's possible some publishers wrote some random things that got rejected. This is the post. Okay everyone, here my official statement concerning the Talbert Files. As I said elsewhere, I don't know what Talbert Files is. I haven't looked at it yet. I never said it was fake though, despite the emails I'm getting. We are talking about 2017, and that's a long time ago. If it is an unpublished version of the Freddy Files like everybody says, then it was obviously rejected. Lots of stuff gets rejected. One thing that everybody needs to keep in mind is that a lot of companies that I work with come up with products from time to time to try to fill in the gaps of the lore. They essentially create new lore in trying to create a product. This happens a lot more than you may realize. Almost every time this happens, however, I step in and say, no, don't create lore, just focus on established lore. Even a detail as small as Est 1983 on a t-shirt, I'll say no, don't include an established date because that confuses the lore. Companies don't realize this. They have good intentions. All of this is to say that yes, it's possible that the Talbert Files is an old version of the Freddy Files, but if it is, it was obviously rejected. Anytime you see an unpublished book or unpublished screenplay or even scrapped merchandise designs, try to keep in mind that a lot of ideas get scrapped because they are simply bad ideas. I have enough bad ideas on my own, I don't need help. The other problem is that I've seen emails supposedly by me that were not written by me. I do sometimes reply to emails, rarely, however the one that I've seen posted on Reddit and the one sent to me privately by members of the Talbert group is a fake. It wasn't written by me. There are too many obvious giveaways. Please don't harass anyone over this. I think there is a lot of confusion over this obviously, but I don't think anyone has intended to cause problems. So from this post we learned that the emails were definitely faked. Both of them. But the Talbert Files could be a real piece of scrapped media. Publishers write random things to get content and it got rejected, and Scott didn't even remember it. This was 7 years ago, so that's understandable. But then, Scott edited his post. This is what he said. Edit. Okay, I've been looking through some of the Talbert Files pages. I couldn't find any downloadable versions, but I watched YouTube videos browsing through it. I can pretty confidently say that the Talbert Files is fake and not an unreleased Freddy Files. It looks completely unfamiliar to me and not something Scholastic would have put together. It also mentions characters that weren't created until years later. Pretty sure it's fake, folks. So now not only the emails that he allegedly wrote to Entom are fake, but also the whole Talbert Files. People were conflicted and a lot of them were saying that this is throwing Entom under the bus. Clarifying whether or not you made something is not throwing anyone under the bus. People were demanding answers. He had to answer. People were already mad that he's keeping silent on this situation, whether or not what he's saying is true. Some people got really mad at Scott, some people got really mad at Entom. It was chaos. Nobody knows who is the one lying. Scott? Entom? None of them really have a reason to lie. Scott is literally the creator of the franchise, so most people believed him. He has less reasons to lie, if any at all. Some accused Entom and the friend group of lying for clout, but Entom is a trustworthy member of the community. Also, deactivating right after the leak happened is counterproductive, so they gained nothing this way. Some people, and especially the friend group, accused Scott of lying because the Talbert Files predicts the anniversary novel the week before and the movie. I find this hard to believe too. Scott isn't your friend who invited you to watch their favorite movie and you guessed the plot twist, so now he's trying to gaslight you into thinking it doesn't happen. Usually when something leaks, Scott is pretty straightforward about it. The Talbert group refuses to show any proof, saying they don't have to. They are the definition of source? Trust me, bro. They keep their stance no matter what. There is also another theory that none of them are lying, but Entom was deceived, which would have been really impressive because that means someone made a fake book and planted it in a bookstore or something. After some time, people started dissecting the material even more. Kane Carter dissected the image, showing that it has an odd writing style and multiple spelling and grammar mistakes, which doesn't happen with Scott. Since Kane is one of the fanverse creators, they exchange multiple emails between each other, so Kane knows Scott's writing style and what kind of mistakes he makes. One Twitter user pointed out how the uncorrected proof, not for sale stripe, is glowing. It goes over the book cover, which is really odd, but maybe it's because of the way the photo was taken or scanned. Also, the other thing is the uncorrected proof, not for sale, doesn't overlap the cover. It goes on top of it. Here it overlaps it. This makes it even more suspicious. So I decided to photo forensic the pictures. I also took some of my own. I don't know how to conclude this at all, but they look quite different to each other, especially the notes below. The official guidebook to the best-selling video game series, and under investigation by paranormal investigator Christopher Ryan Talbert. The scanned version text is much clearer, but I also took a picture of my own copy. The picture of the Talbert Files copy looks like it was taken on a phone, so it's not fair to compare it with a scan. At least to my knowledge, because I don't know how to differentiate the noise levels and stuff. When I compare it to my own picture that I took, the difference is so much more clear that I believe the cover is edited. The noise of everything looks relatively the same, at least to me. But when you look at the Talbert Files, each section of the book looks different, edited. But you also have to keep in mind that the lighting of my photo and the Talbert Files photo is different, so maybe that's the issue, but I don't think it would change the noise so much. And the noise level on the uncorrected proof not for sale stripe is crazy. I think it's edited. There's also one photo of the inside of the book. In comparison with my picture, it's very similar, so I cannot say anything about this. Maybe some of you know how to find the difference between an edited version and not edited with this kind of technology. I don't know how that works, unfortunately, but those are the comparisons I made. The cover looks fake to me, the page inside doesn't. Okay, so I used some other tools for photo forensics and I got different results. Especially on the page inside. It looks more edited than the photo I made, but I still don't know if that means anything in this case, so take it with a grain of salt. I believe this is fake. I don't think Scott, the creator of the franchise, would have lied about all this. This also looks like it's perfectly crafted to be a perfect hoax, using old Scott posts as a proof. Like the Steam post, they brought up themselves in the documents to show it as a proof of it being real. It also really feels like a fan service thing because of all the dates, ages and names. Also the fact that Cassidy got a big role in that. A lot of people really like Cassidy, but she's not that important in the story. Her importance is as big as the other missing children incident kids. A lot of people don't like that, so they replace Andrew with her, so to me this will be a very big fan service moment. Also, the mails were definitely faked. I guess the Scott Cotton at yahoo.com was the mimic. Scott Cotton at yahoo.com? I'm Scott Cotton at yahoo.com. You're not Scott Cotton at yahoo.com. What are you? I'm Scott Cotton at yahoo.com. I'm Scott Cotton. So in conclusion, I think this is fake. I'd rather trust the creator of the franchise than just a random content creator and their friends who refuse to provide any proof. They're also very defensive about it. The Talbert group claims they didn't want to release it because then people would take it as canon and chaos would ensue. And they said they were proven right and they don't want to release the novel even more because of that. But the chaos wasn't because of the content inside. The chaos was there because the book was kept hidden from everybody and then just suddenly leaked. And in between that, it was said to be fake and real so many times. It was a roller coaster. That's why it was so chaotic. Not because people got a scrapped version of something. And I don't think taking it as a headcanon or dubious canon is such an issue if these things don't really hold much importance and will never get confirmed anyway. And if they will, nothing will change, like Michael being 15 when the bite of 83 happened. If Scott suddenly said that he was 13, nothing would really change, so I don't think it's that important. So I think this is just an excuse for not releasing this, I guess. The chaos of this all was because nobody knew whether it's real or fake, not because of the content. If it's a fake, I think it's a really well-crafted hoax, crafted with the help of bits and pieces of Scott's posts and other lore to make it seem plausible to happen. But you never know, maybe they all were deceived. So the only thing left is to wait for someone to either show proof or wait for the interactive novel to come out and see if it has any connection. If we're talking about the interactive novel, some of these people also said that Scott is suddenly changing the plot of it right now and it's gonna be delayed because it had the stuff from Talbert Files in it. Which is on the level of people saying that MatPat writes the lore and Scott just copies him, but when MatPat gets it right, Scott changes it. I think it's really dumb. But yeah, all we have to do is wait. Maybe nothing's ever gonna come out of it. I also believe this led to another big thing in the community. Pinky Pills left. This all happened the same day, 2nd of May. When the Talbert Files leaked, people were asking Scott to fire her because of many controversies she's been in and her creepy behavior. Many also think her art is not really good. Once Scott replied saying the mails are fake, everybody was leaving. He's engaging in some Talbert drama but isn't addressing the real issue, which is Pinky Pills. He then quickly made this post. And about Pinky Pills. Okay, so here's what I have to say about this situation. Claudia, Pinky Pills, has been doing art for me for many years now. She isn't an employee, she's just one of the many artists who I call on when I think her skills are right for the job. She added a huge amount of personality and humor to the Freddy in Space games, as almost all of the boss designs from the Freddy's in Space series were her ideas. In fact, I had her working on another game for the Five Nights at Freddy's anniversary. She has also made mistakes over the years and I don't think she would deny that. In fact, she doesn't deny that. I don't know all of the details of every situation and I won't pretend to, but what I can say is that from my observation she has always made an honest effort to better herself, learn from her mistakes and not repeat them. I also consider her mistakes to be of the same severity as other similar circumstances. That doesn't mean everybody's going to like her or her art style. And that's okay. That's why I have other artists and more on the way. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, but I would still like to call on her when I feel her skills are right for the job. and I hope that this fanbase would be receptive to that. I believe that she has worked in good faith to try to redeem her mistakes of the past. Again, I hope the fanbase will be receptive to this. I know that I've needed second chances in my own life, so I try to give them when I can. That's not always possible, but I think in this case it can be. This was his first post with negative karma. People were disappointed and mad. Then few hours later, Pinky made a post that she's not gonna work for FNAF for an indefinite period of time. Then another one crying. Everyone was celebrating, but still saying Scott is not to be trusted because she left herself. Then Scott made another update on Reddit about her. Pinky Pew's update. I wanted to update this situation about Pinky Pews. Claudia has decided to move on to other projects, and I respect her decision. She did a lot of good work for FNAF over the years. So there is the final update on the situation. Everyone enjoy your weekend. Pinky also made an update on her own website that she's gonna talk about it later. I will not be talking about the things she's done. This deserves its own video. I think it's important to actually stay informed on this though, because people spread a lot of misinformation and confuse her for a different, already fired artist that was a pedophile. So if you want to stay up to date and know the bad things she's actually done, I would advise you to go to the Five Nights at Freddy's subreddit. The first twin post is called Regarding the Situation with Pinky Pews, and it's made by u/springpopo. It keeps logs of everything she's done there. So yeah, these few days were a literal roller coaster. Do not ask FNAF fans what happened on the 2nd of May. I wish Entom all the best and I hope they're well. Again, don't harass anyone. This is never okay, even if the whole thing is a hoax. It's still not okay to harass them. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you next time. There weren't many videos these past few months because I accidentally deleted all my files and lost all of my motivation, but I will be remaking all those videos I had. Thanks everyone, see you!